Today, we're going to break down what's happening in one of the most tense geopolitical hotspots on the entire planet, the Taiwan Strait.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Global War Watch Network.
All right, before we jump in, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button so you can stay in the loop on critical stories like this one. Now let's get right to it. Picture this. China launches these massive live fire drills that basically look like a blockade of Taiwan. And just as that's happening, the U.S. makes a really rare, really powerful move. They deploy not one, but two of their nuclear-powered aircraft carriers to the region. This is a big deal, folks. This isn't just a routine exercise. This is a serious signal being sent.
So what we're looking at here is a seriously dangerous standoff. The moves that both Beijing and Washington are making have just dramatically ratcheted up the tension, creating this intense military friction right in the heart of the Indo-Pacific. Okay, so let's break down China's side of this first. What exactly are they up to? Well, they've codenamed their operation Justice Mission 2025, and it's being called the largest military drill they have ever conducted in this area. It's pretty clear they're trying to send a message, and it's a loud one.
And these weren't just some simple drills. I mean, they were incredibly comprehensive. They practiced simulated blockades of Taiwan's key ports. We're talking about figuring out how to completely cut the island off from the rest of the world. On top of that, you have extensive live fire exercises. Yep, that means real ammunition. And it wasn't just ships either. This was a combined sea and air operation that literally encircled the island and was so big it even disrupted international flight. So what's the official reason for all this? The stated goal was for the People's Liberation Army to show off what they call their integrated combat capability. You know, in plain English, it's a massive show of force. It's them saying, look, we have a unified military that can safeguard our national sovereignty and unity. And Beijing wasn't exactly subtle about the political message here. They didn't mince words at all. They called the drills a stern warning against any kind of external interference and a direct counter to what they call separatist movements.
So you might be asking, what kicked all this off? What was the trigger? Well, according to Beijing, this whole thing was a direct response to a record-breaking U.S. arms package that was sold to Taiwan. From China's point of view, that sale was a major provocation. A red line had been crossed. And that, in turn, is what prompted this big response from the U.S. Okay, so that's China's move. Now let's flip the coin and look at America's naval response, because Washington's countermove was just as significant, a huge projection of military power right into this powder keg of a region. And when we say significant, we mean it. Look at the assets they brought to the table. You've got the USS Abraham Lincoln operating in the South China Sea. Then there's the USS George Washington, forward deployed from its base in Japan. And if that wasn't enough, you have the USS Tripoli. That's an amphibious assault ship that can launch F-35B jets, basically turning it into a mini aircraft carrier. This is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful American naval forces we've seen in this region in a long, long time.
The strategy behind all this military hardware has a name: multi-domain readiness. It sounds a little jargony, but what it really means is showing the world that the U.S. can project its power and run complex missions across every possible domain: air, sea, and land, all at the same time. It's all about flexing that capability and reach.
So this U.S. deployment is really playing two different roles at once. On one side, it's about deterrence, trying to prevent China from escalating things any further. But on the other side, it's about assurance, sending a clear message to allies in the region, Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, that America's security promises are rock solid.
Right, so you've got two global superpowers posturing, making these huge military moves in the same, very tight space. The big question, the one everyone is asking, is, what on earth does this mean for the rest of us? Well, the immediate result is pretty clear. You have an entire region on the edge of its seat. These actions have strategic consequences that are sending ripples far, far beyond just the Taiwan Strait.
One source used this really powerful analogy to describe the situation. They called it a pressure cooker. Both China and the U.S. are just cranking up the heat. And while each side claims they're just trying to keep the lid on, all that mounting pressure raises the very real danger of a sudden, violent explosion. And this intense pressure has some really serious implications for everyone. First off, the risk of an accident, a miscalculation that could spiral into a full-blown conflict, is way higher now. Second, this could just be the new normal, a state of constant high-stakes military tension. For Taiwan, of course, this means being on permanent high alert. And finally, it's pushing other countries in the area to team up and strengthen their own security alliances.
And that's not just theory.
We're already seeing it happen. This tension has pushed the Quad security group, that's India, the US, Japan, and Australia, to get on the same page with their diplomatic response. This is a big deal because the Quad is increasingly being seen as a strategic counterweight to China's influence. So the military friction is now turning into a coordinated diplomatic front.
So where does all this leave us? Well, it points to a pretty precarious future. Navigating security in the Indo-Pacific has suddenly become a very dangerous high-wire act for literally everyone involved.
And really, it all boils down to this one central challenge. How do Washington and Beijing navigate that incredibly delicate balance between deterrence and escalation? How do you show you're strong enough to fight without accidentally starting the fight?
And that's exactly why people are calling this a high-wire act. You've got both the US and China trying to keep their balance on this razor-thin wire. But with these military storms brewing more and more often, the risk of a fall into open conflict, is getting scarily higher.
And that leaves us with one final and maybe the most important question of all. In this global high-wire act, can diplomacy actually build a safety net before somebody slips?
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us. If you found this breakdown valuable, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like, share, and subscribe to the Global War Watch Network. It helps us keep making more explainers just like this one. And we really do want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on all this? Let us know down in the comments section. And hey, come join our community on social media. All the links for that are waiting for you in the description below.